Hi, this is Andy Nichols with Horman Nichols. I have here with me my friend Devin. Devin is with Luqman Law. Devin, your office is located downtown Frederick, right?
Downtown Frederick, 129 West Patrick Street in Frederick, Maryland, right across from the courthouse.
Devin's practice areas with his firm include immigration law as well as criminal defense law. You were with the Public Defender's Office in Frederick for a while?
Correct.
All right, so I have Devin in here today. We're kind of collaborating on a video because we have different areas of practice, and we wanted to bring some information to the viewers about sometimes these areas of law can intersect with each other and how they may impact your rights or your options in certain situations.
And so I specialize in immigration and criminal defense, and I would say you specialize in the civil arena, but what do you
We do primarily personal injury and workers' compensation.
Okay.
And then my partner does domestic law, divorce, custody, those sorts of matters.
Okay. Well, so one of your questions, I imagine you had asked me earlier, what are your rights if you're out of status or undocumented? And the answer to that is you still have rights in regards to criminal law in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely have the same rights, as a U.S. citizen or a resident, which is the right against an unreasonable search and seizure. All of those issues can be your right against being interrogated without an attorney. Those rights apply to everybody that's in America across the board. What I'm not familiar with, and you can answer for me, is I do know that you do have civil rights. For example, if you're undocumented or you're out of status and you were to get into a car accident and you were badly hurt and you want help with your medical bills and other specific situations, you can still pursue that case if you're undocumented or out of status. You can still pursue that case in court.
That's correct. Even if you're undocumented or out of status in the state of Maryland, you are still eligible to receive workers' compensation benefits if you're injured on the job. A lot of times you run into situations where the employer says, well, they're not my employee, they're an independent contractor. That's ultimately a determination that the Workers' Compensation Commission will make. I can tell you as a general rule that defense does not work very often because it's a very, very strict criteria. So you are eligible, if you're injured on the job in Maryland, if you're undocumented, to have your medical bills paid, to be paid while you're out of work, wages, or temporary total disability, as they call it in the workers' comp circle. And you're also eligible if you find that you have a permanent injury or permanent symptoms from your injury. You are also eligible to file for disability benefits or a disability rating with the Workers' Compensation Commission. Similarly, if you're involved in a personal injury case, meaning outside of the context of work, you can still file a claim against the at-fault party. You're still eligible to recover the same sorts of damages anybody else is eligible to recover: economic benefits as well as non-economic damages, which would include pain and suffering damages. So your status in terms of documentation in this country is not impacted, or rather does not impact your rights. It may impact some of the, within those types of cases, things you can do. For example, workers' compensation, sometimes you have vocational rehabilitation services. If you are undocumented and technically cannot be working legally in this country, then you are not eligible to receive those sorts of benefits.
And explain to me vocational rehabilitation. What is that to I don't even know what that is.
So if you receive an injury that limits or restricts your ability to return back in the same type of work you were doing pre-injury, the workers' compensation insurance company generally has to pay for you to be retrained for a new type of job, or to help you find a new type of job that meets your restrictions. If you can't lift the same amount of weight you could before, any other type of restriction that stems from your injury. And they are responsible to pay for those benefits to try and find you a new job or retrain you to make you eligible for a new job.
Okay.
So Devin, one thing I see a lot in the context of, if we get a phone call, someone just looking and they ask, do we do immigration law? We don't. But oftentimes we get a question that says, well, what are things we can do before we go see an immigration attorney? What do you recommend we do? Because that's not an area we practice in, unfortunately, I'm not really able to help people with that. But What are some things that people can do before they go see an attorney such as yourself in terms of that sort of a context?
The usual documents that we request when a client retains, or if a client wants to do an application, perhaps we tell them how to pursue it. Whether you're doing something by yourself or using an attorney, what's important to know, there's some essentials that you want to have and you want to keep current. Of course, you'd want to make sure you have your personal identifying information in a safe place, your birth certificate. I would also, if your birth certificate is in a different language, it may be beneficial to get it translated into English by a certified translating agency, and have that ready in advance. You never know if you might need those documents in an emergency, and if it's already translated, that can be submitted to immigration, whether it's immigration court or if it is United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, the office itself. If it's already translated, then that step one time isn't wasted in the case of an emergency. So it'd be good to have it translated. So you want your birth certificate. If you're married, you want to make sure you keep all your marriage certificates, and that insinuates if you were divorced as well, make sure you keep your divorce, your orders of divorce. Those are important. And once again, if those are in a different language, it is beneficial, maybe a good investment to have that translated as soon as you can. We keep that in a secure place. If you have any criminal history, let's say you were accused of a crime and it was dismissed, or you were found not guilty, you want to keep records of that. You also, if you were to get a case expunged, removed from your record, you really want to keep that paperwork because you're still going to need it, potentially, if you can pursue immigration relief.
Okay.
So those are some big ones, and you want to make sure if you have a passport, try to keep it current. So if it expires, you will want to renew that passport. Maybe you're thinking, well, I don't want to go anywhere. If I'm out of status or undocumented, I wouldn't be traveling anyways. If you were able to pursue, certain immigration relief, that you keep that current.
How about proof of having filed taxes? Is that beneficial to have?
Another tip is, try to file your taxes every year, and keep records of that. That's very important, very important.
Another question I had, we see on the news, especially locally here in Frederick, the 287G. It's been in the papers. Our local law enforcement agencies have been involved with that particular law. Can you explain a little bit what that is and how it impacts people in our community?
So in Frederick County, no more than 2 or 3 counties in the nation are enrolled in what's called 287G. It is a partnership between federal authorities with immigration and the police here in Frederick. I believe just the county police. But it's an agreement where if I'm a police officer and I were to pull over somebody, there has to be a reason I'm pulling somebody over first. But if I suspect that somebody is undocumented or is not supposed to be in the United States of America, I'm allowed to then further investigate, which could mean I could take that individual to the police station, inquire further, and what could happen there if somebody is undocumented or out of status. ICE would then respond, and immigration would respond and say, this person is not supposed to be here. If that is the case, the person could be detained for 48 hours, about 2 days, for immigration to confirm if this individual is supposed to be here or not. So that all could happen from a simple traffic stop in Frederick. Specifically, police officers are allowed to investigate the immigration status of an individual. So that's what makes Frederick County unique.